Aloha, friends, and thank you very much for taking care of the week 4 assignment on algorithms. Now, I only talked to about a third of the class this week, and so I want to bring up some important points that you might have missed. Many of you did a great job on writing your algorithm, but you might have found that you missed several steps, and you probably did, or you forgot to edit your work closely to include the step you really meant to include. And these small issues are big ones for algorithms. If we look at this article here, and this article tells people how to change their content online so that a Google site will recognize them and rank them higher. This particular article discusses that Google has about 2 trillion searches a year, and that comes down to about 40,000 searches every single second. So the smallest change to an algorithm can have, as the article says, a massive impact not only to somebody's site, but also to the information they receive. Now, part of the problem is that algorithms must be tiny, tiny pieces of information. Every single step needs to be a single step. You can't put multiple steps in an algorithm, or a computer can't read it. The difference between the algorithms in our class and an algorithm written by a Google employee, of course, are vast, but the building blocks are basically the same. They are a list of instructions for either a person or a computer to follow, and those instructions need to be conveyed with in mind of who the audience is. In this case, with Google, it's humans, but it's also first a computer. So when we write algorithms, every single tiny bit is important. The next thing we need to consider is about biases in algorithms. Now, many of you programmed in your bias when I read through the post this week, and that's normal. Most of our biases are hidden from us. And what I mean by that, they are so part of our personality that we don't see it. So if somebody suggested that you should top a cake with chocolate ice cream rather than vanilla or lemon, that is programming in your bias. So we programmed in what I would consider small biases. They're not going to have a large impact on the world, whether you suggested that somebody use chocolate rather than vanilla icing. However, these same exact type of biases show up in larger algorithms. That's why all of this big data is problematic right now. That's why we have programmed in racism, sexism, ageism, spiritualism, and every kind of ism you can think. If you look at Google and just start typing, what are the, oh, look at that. I'm coming up with all these suggestions and they have nothing to do with me. So part of the problem is that when an algorithm assumes what you want to see, they are performing what's called a fundamental attribution error. A fundamental attribution error is we assume the motivations behind somebody's action because of our own personal belief systems and biases. For example, if you see a car speed down the highway and cut you off in traffic, you might assume through the fundamental attribution error that that person is a butthead, that they didn't care, that they didn't think about the other people around them, and they're only concerned about getting to where they want to get fast. But what we might not know is why that person is driving that way. Indeed, there is no way for us to know because we've never had a conversation with that person. All we can go on are our own assumptions and our own biases, and this gets us in trouble. It gets us in trouble with inner relationships, so our communication with intimate relationships, with group communications, with cross-cultural communications, with algorithms, with computers, with big data, with advertising, and the list goes on and on and on. So the problem with algorithms is although they help to make our life a little bit easier, they are all based on somebody's assumption of what we really want. And there's no way for an algorithm to know what we really want. Certainly, algorithms can see our tendency in searches. This reflects that. Best transition between film clips. Okay, this is a search I did earlier because I'm editing a movie. What are the best quad skates for outdoor long distance skating? Again, this is based on an earlier search. So is Vata personalities and algorithms. But neutral networks, the symptoms of the coronavirus, the 5 languages of love, what are capers? What are the 7 deadly sins? What are the greenhouse gases? All of these things are assumptions that a computer has made on some of my past searches. But because the computer has never had a conversation with me, doesn't understand me, cannot understand where I am coming from, the computer will always be often off base because biases are programmed in. So as you work with mass media online, it is vital that you remember these things. If you look for a certain argument or a paper or a piece of information to basically affirm your own belief system, you are basically affirming your own biases. You're not thinking outside of what makes you comfortable, and that means you're not going to grow as a human being. So when you use mass media, whether it's the news or a Google search or a Yahoo search or a Bing search, I don't care what service you use. It is your responsibility now to look for things that are not in your interest, to balance out those algorithms so they can give you more of a diverse background of the information you are seeking. Because otherwise, you'll stay in your information bubble. You will find yourself in a place where you cannot empathize or compassion with other, and you will find it difficult to make it through this world. So be smart when you're working online. Challenge the algorithm's assumptions and broaden your own horizons. Thank you.